Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. Today's topic is Introduction to PostgreSQL. I'll be your tutor for today's class. My name is Josiah Olabi. I'm a software engineer, mainly focused on building backend infrastructure, building backend services. Like I said earlier, topic is Introduction to PostgreSQL. And the first slide says that what is database. So for today's class, I'll be using a guide, which is an article I'm currently writing, which is Introduction to Databases Comprehensive Guide to PostgreSQL. So I'll be using this as a guide so I don't stay off from today's topic. So the first information from the first slide says that database is a structured collection of data that is stored electronically in your computer system and is managed by a database management system, which is a DBMS. So what this basically means is that database is used to store information or store a collection of data. So these data are structured. They have a certain structure in them and they are stored electronically in a computer system. It can be a server or it can be a local machine. And in order to manage this data, we use a DBMS, which is a database management system. So from the article I wrote, I said that database is an information king because today everything digital. So whether you are using a social media app like Twitter and you want to drag your favorite influencer, so that tweet that you're trying to quote, right? It has the username, it has the display name, and it has the tweet content. So this information are stored in a database. When you requote that tweet, right, that information that's there, or that information that you add in the quoted tweet that's in a database. So that is where you can easily retrieve them. So that's what basically database is used for. So it's one that's working behind the scene when building backend system to store, organize, and retrieve data. So by understanding database, like I said earlier, it's a structured collection of data that is stored electronically in a computer system. So it can be a server or a local machine. So let's look at it like a filing cabinet, right? If you've gone to a library before, you see data arranged in certain order. It can be alphabetically, it can be by authors or whatever. So those data are arranged in that manner. And when you want to add a new book into the library, right, you have to go through that same system, like that same filing cabinet system. So that is how database exactly is, right? It's like a filing cabinet. You used to store data. So once you get a new book, you retrieve information. When you're adding a new book, that's you're creating information, inserting information. So that's what basically database is. So the purpose for database, which we're going to discuss on the next slide, is that it's good for efficiently storing data, for retrieving data, managing data. From the example I gave earlier regarding a filing cabinet, right? For you to get a certain book from a filing cabinet, even though it's ordered by author or ordered alphabetically, or it's ordered by the type of course it is, either is it under or ordered by department or faculty, is it under engineering, is it under law, is it under arts or whatever. So basically, you used to store data, they used to retrieve it, and they used to manage data. So for you to manage those data in a database, you need a DBMS, like we mentioned earlier, a database management system. And we said that database they serve as a backbone for various applications. So from smaller websites to large scale websites to banking system, they serve as the purpose for storing data for retrieving data. So when you are using your bank app, be it popular bank app like First Bank app, Selling Bank app, Zenny Bank app, when you log in into your bank app, either by biometric or use an a PIN, right? To perform transaction or to check your account balance. Those are information stored in a database, so you have to retrieve it to show you your account balance. So the next part is type of databases, right? We have relational database, which is which is the short form of RDBMS. So they used to organize data into tables with defined relationship. So what this basically means is that when you're looking at structured data, in order to relate them together, those are only available in relational databases. Let's say, like we mentioned earlier from the example we gave, right? When we are looking at performing a transaction and we are using a favorite bank app, right? As a user or as someone who has a bank account in, let's say, any bank, for example, right? You have a user account. That user account is linked to account balance, linked to card. So you see how those data are related. So a user or me as someone who register with any bank, I'll be linked to an account balance, or I can be linked to multiple accounts. It can be a DOM account, which is for dollar, euros, or whatever it is. and can also be linked to a NERA account. So that relation there is only available in relational database. So these are only available, or is a kind of defined relationship between those tables that used to organize them. So the popular ones that we know of this type of database are Postgres and MySQL. So for NoSQL database, they are focused on more flexibility on data models, right? They are not relational like that relational databases are. So the popular ones are MongoDB, Cassandra. So for better explanation, I'll go through my content also to better explain it to you. So like I said earlier, so they are like spreadsheets, right? They are used to organize data into a defined relationship or organize data into tables with defined relationship. And they are connected, kind of like I gave an example of a user having or connected it to different accounts, right? So each column in the data, well, they represent attributes. I'm going to talk about different type of data types later in this lecture. Then there are also NoSQL databases. They are like unlike traditional databases, right? They offer more flexibility in handling diverse type of data. So let's say be blob type, which is for images and the rest. So they are used to handle more diverse database where you can't really know the type of the data you're going to save in the database. So basically, they are better for scalability. I mean that when you're having high concurrent users, maybe this can be complicated for that. I don't understand what high concurrent users is. I mean that if you have large amount of people using the bank, sorry, using a bank account for example, at the same time. So these are also something that's important when choosing the right database to use. So we're going to look at the key concept of the database, which is the next slide, I think. We have tables, we have schema, we have queries and transactions. So I'll explain each of this one after the other. So for tables, table is a data that is organized in rows and column, right? So when you look at tables, this is the way you organize data in rows and column, just like your Excel, but quite similar, but not really is, right? So when you use Excel, or when you're using Microsoft Excel, for those of you that have used Microsoft Excel, you have rows and you have column. So for your row, you have numbered from the left hand to the right hand side. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think. So rows and column basically. I usually mix them up. Sorry about that. For rows and column basically, for rows, they are ordered from top to bottom, right? So from 0 to whatever number, maybe a million or so. There from column, they are aligned from A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6 till Z. So those are the arrangements. So those are columns and those are row. So these are the way we organize data. So to organize the data, they are in table. When it comes to schema, schema is the way we structure data. Basically, there are constraints in data. But when it comes to queries, right? So when you make queries, it's used to access data, to manipulate data. Let's say you want to get a user or you want to select the user. Just normally your code operations that it wants to make queries for. So to create a information or to create a data or add a row into a database, we use the create command. But when it comes to inserting, so we use the insert command rather. But when it comes to updating the data, we use the update command. So these are the things we are going to talk on or touch more up as we go further in this class. And according to the article I was writing, or I'm currently writing, it's a database table are data that are relationally organized, basically resembling a spreadsheet like Excel, like I mentioned earlier. So they are consisting rows and columns, with each row representing a unique record. So those rows are uniquely identified. Can be by an identifier like an ID, can be a number, it can be a number which is auto incremented, which is moved from 1 to 3, 4, 5 to 7, 8, 9, 10 to infinity. And it can also be different type of identifier like a UID or whatever. So these are the way we denote or we specify certain rows with specific attributes. So those are what database table is. For schema, this is the way we define the relationship between database table and the type that we use in those database table. But when it comes to query, these are the requests that is being made to database to manipulate data, to perform code operations, basically, like I mentioned earlier. Can also use to perform transactions, perform calculation, and update records on specific concepts or specific information. So when you look at transaction, from the slide, I say transaction is a group of operations that are executed as a single unit to maintain data integrity. All it simply means is that when you want to perform various queries at the same time, or perform various type of queries that are needed. Let's say you want to send money from your account to a friend's account, right? You see that there are a lot of queries that is being made to the database during that period. For example, when you open your bank app and you go to transfer or send money, right? You first of all select your bank account, which is select operation, which is a create of a read operation that has been done. When you look at the code processes, right? That's the read operation that has been done. That's the first query that has been done. Then you look at also inputting the your friend's account number, which is also a read operation that has been done, right? Which is another two read operations. Now, when you want to send the money from your account to his account, your money get deducted from your account started to your friend's account. Those are manipulation that has been done. So it's updated from your account, also updated from your other friend's account. So in order to make this information or to make this process work out or work normally, you have to do a transaction. So the way you bind those queries together. So it's mainly important for data integrity, meaning that if you have to make those requests to the database one after the other, sometimes it can cause issues. Let's say, for example, when you send the money and you select it and it was wrong, or your friend's account number was a little bit wrong, maybe you missed a number or you um added a different number, right? The money is deducted from your account but not added into your friend account because there's an issue there. So in order to perform this transaction or these queries as a unit to maintain data integrity, mean that you don't get deducted for the money that didn't go through, right? Those are transactions. So these are what is used for data integrity mostly. Then we look at the next the next topic of or subtopic of this slide, which is what is PostgreSQL. The PostgreSQL is an open source advanced object relational database management system. What this simply means is that database like Postgres, for example, is open source, meaning that you can go there, edit a code or make changes if you like, meaning that it's available to the public. When we talk about that is an advanced object relational database management system, mean that is an object relation database that is quite advanced. You can use to do multiple type of schemas, add different type of table, different type of data types, and it's highly extensible and standard compliant. Meaning that you can add extensions to it. You can extend it normally from how it is before. Then it has robust set of features like ACID compliance. What that means is that A stands for atomicity, C stands for sorry, I quite forget sometimes. But let me just go through my guide for today's class. So atomicity, C stands for consistency, I stands for isolation, and D stands for durability. So what this basically means is that when we explain transaction before, so if you want to perform a transaction or database transaction, I treat that as a single unit. That's what it means by atomicity. So there's no data loss. It's ensure data integrity. When it comes to consistency, I mean that when you make transaction, it only changes that you asked that I should make that is being made. So it allows consistency in the data. When it comes to isolation, meaning that if you want to perform multiple transactions at the same time, let's say that you are using a bank app, like 10,000 people want to send or send money from their account to someone else's account, and those information or those transactions are supposed to be made at the same time. I mean, it's supposed to be made concurrently, right? So isolation will mean that you isolate those transactions separately so that they don't affect each other. So that is what isolation means. So mean that each request can occur as thought they were occurring one by one, even though they actually occurring simultaneously. So looking at the example I gave, mean that someone using a bank app or various people using a bank app at the same time and they want to send money from one person to the other. So isolation is a way to isolate those requests. When it comes to durability, mean that the data that you save successfully executed. Like when I mentioned earlier, when you want to send money from your account to a friend's account, right? And you missed a number or you replaced a number with something else. So in order to ensure that that transaction is being successful, that's what durability is, meaning that it follow ACID compliance. And when you look at that, it supports advanced data types and performance optimization features, meaning that Postgres is very highly advanced. It support different data types. This I think in this course I'm not going to take data types, but the popular data types we have in SQL have varchar, we have characters, we have text, we have long text, we have small integers, big integers, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things we'll touch in this course when we're creating a database table. So we'll move to the next slide and say why Postgres. Mean that why should you use Postgres? Postgres is an enterprise grade with strong community support. Mean that if you are having issues working with Postgres, you can also drop an issue in the GitHub repository. So you definitely see people that will support or will reply to your message and help you fix the problem. Looking at the cross platform compatibility or compatibility basically. What this means is that it doesn't matter what type of operating system you use, you can install Postgres without any issue. Either you're using macOS, you're using Windows, or you're using Linux or a Linux distro rather. So it allows for cross-platform compatibility basically. So it's very ideal for handling complex queries like data sets. If it's a billion record, a million record, doesn't matter. And also used to handle concurrent transaction. I think I explained what concurrent transaction is already. So Postgres is able to accept or use or allow such large complex queries. So that is why you should pick Postgres. And yeah, we'll talk about what how we can install and set up Postgres. I think I already have installed on my system, so I can't really show you how exactly you could install it, but I think I'll show you through the link. And yeah, so that you download it from Postgres installer. I mean, you download the Postgres installer for your OS from the official website, which is postgresql.org/download. Then you follow the installation wizard. That means you get a lot of pop-up regarding installation and in terms of condition for sure that we all read. And also you said I should remember the password for the default Postgres user. And optionally install pgadmin for a graphical user interface. I think that's very important. So not really optionally, but I think you should install it. So I'll show you exactly how you should install Postgres on your laptop or how you can install Postgres on your laptop or your computer. So go through the Postgres official website. So for me, I'll just search for Postgres on Google instead of copying the link here. So when you search for Postgres on Google, you get this here, which is the download. So I'll click on the download, right? Then you get Postgres available or available for download. So you see operating system, like I said earlier. I said Postgres is compatible with different operating system. So Linux here, whether you're using the Mac OS or using on Windows, these are the most popular three operating systems that we all know. So those are the operating system that is available for. For me, I use Mac OS, so I'll try downloading it for you. And if you use Windows, I'll also show you how to get it downloaded on your system. So look at Mac OS, for example. When you click on Mac OS download, we get different version of Postgres we can download. But yeah, basically, the popular ones are version 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10. I think the most recent one that you could see is version 13. So for me, I'll download version 16 and let's see. So to get that installed, we click on the download installer. Then we come to the screen here that shows different version of Postgres. So if you're using Linux, for example, with 64 bits, you can download Postgres to from the latest version to the version 9.3. And if it's also for Linux, the same thing, 32 bits. If you're using macOS like me, you just click on download here, and you're able to download the Postgres. So you get that pop up there. Say that your download should begin in a few seconds. So for me, I already have installed, so I will delete it and sorry. Then once you install it on Windows, the same process also. You click on Windows there. If you're using it 64 bits Windows, you can download every version that is available. But if you're using 32 bits, I think the recent version that you could still install is version 13.23. So if you use Windows, you click here and you get the same pop-up to download. So for me, I don't use Windows, so I'm going to cancel it. So when you do this or when it downloads completely, I think it's around 30 or something MB. So when you download it completely, you get a installation wizard, which is a pop-up to install Postgres on your system, either using 15 or 16, or then you download it. But after that's done, then you follow the installation wizard, like I said earlier. Then you should remember the password you use for your Postgres. That's very, very important. That's what you'll be using to access Postgres throughout on your system, whether you are using it on your backend application or using it using a database by the main system, or a database admin, or a GUI basically. So always remember the password you use. Then optionally, you should download a PG admin for the GUI. So instead of making or writing codes every single time, right? You can always and always use a GUI. I think that's always preferable. So I'll show you how to download PG admin here. It's quite easy. Just search for PG admin on Google, or you could use the link available here that I added here. So you click on download, then you click on the operating system you use. If you're using a Docker container, you can download that. If you're using macOS, you can also click the macOS download option. For me, I use macOS. I can click macOS and I get it downloaded. And so the latest version is pgadmin version 8.4, which is released like I think 2 weeks ago. So you can get it downloaded on your system by clicking download. So you can either get the ARM version or the 64-bit version. So it's around 200 and something MB, so you can get that downloaded. And if you use Windows too, same process also. Sorry, I think I skipped a tab. So if you want to install it for Windows, you just click on the Windows option, yeah, and you click on download. Then you get the exe version. It's around 1 MB. So you get that downloaded. For me, I have it downloaded already. So I open the PG admin. Like for me, yeah, you see, like I have version 15 of Postgres installed and version 16 of Postgres installed. But for me, I will just open the one for Postgres 15, and takes quite a few times sometimes. Okay, I'm currently using version 15, so I'll try logging in. Like I said, that it's very important for you to remember your password. So for every time you use your PG admin, you have to input your password. For me, hopefully I remember my password. I think yeah, that should be it. So we'll try creating a database, for example. Let me delete this because that is the database I'm going to use for today's class. So for me to create a database, right, I just come here. If you are using a PG admin, which is a DPMS, then you create a database and we name it GDSC in log. Then this is the user, which is Postgres. Like I mentioned earlier, that the default user is always Postgres. So we click on save and we get this. For me, I don't really prefer using pgadmin to handle all the queries I have to make, or I like using other GUIs or database agents. So for me, I use PostgreSQL, which is mainly for Postgres databases, or you can use Table Plus, either one you prefer. But for me, I'll use PostgreSQL here. So I'll show you why it's important for you to always remember your password when you use or when you create a database. So for me, I'll create a database connection here, and let's see how that goes. So we click on new server. If you have any, if you find difficulty installing PostgreSQL in your system or Table Plus, just let me know. You can send me a message. So we'll try with GDSA in log. GDSA in log as a nickname. Let me just pick like some massive GDSA in log. Yeah, I think that should be it. Let me pick that. So the host is always localhost. And the default port for Postgres is always 5432, but for me I'm using 5433. And my database is GTSC in log. And my user, it's Postgres. Like I mentioned earlier, the default is Postgres. And my password, as I always say, that it's always very important for you to remember your password I use for your Postgres. And let's try test. It shows that there's an error. Oh, I think I made a mistake. I used GTSC in lag, in lag. Okay. So that's successful. So click on connect now. So we get this. And I connected successfully into GDS in lag table that I created using my PG admin. So let's continue with the class. So creating and managing database, create and managing PostgreSQL database rather. Look at creating a database table, creating a table, dropping a table, dropping a sorry, creating a database, creating a table, dropping a database. We're going to look at these commands and how they work, and I'll explain how they work basically. and I also use my guide so to better explain, not to just veer off today's topic. So basically, let's take a look at the. So I'll show you how to do it with your GUI also, and also how to do it with your commands. So to create a database table, if you do it with your GUI, it's quite easy. So like I said, I use PostgreSQL. So to create a table, you click here, click on new table. So let's create a table of students, for example, and we say students ID, which is an identity, and it's a primary key, meaning that this is what we use to identify that row. So let's add another column. Let's say a first name, text, last name, text. Let's add email too, and let's call this admitted at. That means the day you get an admission. I will change it to timestamp. And why I like using PostgreSQL is that you get SQL preview. So for all this command I'm running, sorry for all this all this column I added using GUI, I get a query that should be used to create this column of the database. So when I click on save changes and it goes back to my table, which is student I created, you see, it's created with database column student ID, which is an integer, first name which is a text, last name which is also a text, and email also a text. Admitted that which is a timestamp without a time zone. But when it comes to timestamp with time zone, you always use timestamp TZ. So TZ is for the time zone. So you always have to add the time zone if you're using GMC. For we in Lagos we use GMC plus one. So you have to add the time zone. So it will be 0100. So yeah, that's how we add time zone. So we'll try also creating database using a database query, like I said earlier, yeah. So we'll try creating a table. Let's create a table for let's say courses, for example. So come to SQL queries, you do create table. Sometimes when you're used to using GUI, you forget commands quite a lot. The create table, let's call it courses. So we name it course ID, and we call it, and let's say just an integer. Sorry, I think I then let's call it course name, course. I think it should be course title instead of course name actually. Let's call it voca. This is database type for this is stock characters mainly. Let's call course code. I keep misspelling course, don't know why. Vaca. I think that should be all. Let's execute statements. So then I get courses table is created. Then let me add a row, for example. I add one here. I add let's say course types we're adding CSC 213, for example, and we sorry, introduction to sequential programming. Sequential programming. Then the course title is CSC 213. Wow, this is actually course title. Let's look at, like I said, that this is why I love using PostgreSQL. You get the preview of the command of the GUI, sorry, the data you added or data you inserted. So when you save changes, you get this. So when I refresh now, data is saved. So this is what database are used for. They used to save collection of data. So let's go back to the command. I think I'm already going far. I'm already going to the next slide when I'm not even yet at the next slide. Okay, let's look at dropping database table. I think we've talked about creating database table using the GUI. And let's talk about dropping database table. Okay, let's try and drop the courses table we just created. So for you to do that, just do drop table courses. execute statement. When we refresh, the table is no longer there. So I think that those are all for this. Let me go back to my contents and let's see if I missed something else. I think I skipped all this. It's not there. Okay. Um, let's move to the next slide. Always back up a database before performing update or delete operation. I think you can see from the example I showed you. When I drop a database table, see the database table no longer exists. So it's always important for you to back up a database before performing delete or update operation. Very, very important. You always hear the joke of someone getting a job at a company and they ended up deleting the database table or a very important database table. That's very, very that will cause a lot of havoc for the company. So it's very important to back up a database table before you perform any operation. Either you want to do a database table, you want to alter a database table, alter mean that you want to change a certain column or a certain column data type or certain column data name or yeah. So when you want to perform update operation, data operation, it's very, very important for you to back up a database. Let's look at next slide. Say basic SQL commands. We will look at the basic SQL commands. Yeah, I think we've touched a little on some, but yeah, I'll still touch it again. So yeah, we the select command is also used to retrieve database from a retrieve data from a database. Insert command is used to add new rows to a database table, and they modify existing data in a table. That is your big command. The delete command is to remove data from a database table. So these are basically code operations, which is the create operation, the read operation, the update operation, the delete operation. For the create here is to insert. For the read there is to select in code operation. The update is something as update on the code operation. Delete so which is the D. And okay, let's say this command in our database agents. So let me add a few data from this. I think I actually missed something. Let me add my check number to this. So if you want to add a new column, this is why I like using PostgreSQL. You can just add matrix number, and you can use begins as the database type. Then, if you preview it and you say that I'm altering the table public student add column matrix, and it's the type here begins. This is why I like using PostgreSQL. It shows you exactly what command they're going to, what command is running underneath. So we'll save changes and let's see. And when I refresh and I check the content, I get sorry, save get matrix number. So let's add first name of the first user. Let's say Jane Doe or Jane Smith. And the email jane@smith.com. Admitted that let's say today. The matrix number, let's say 210 500 600. Hope I don't leak someone's matric number doing this. Okay, the second one, let's say John Doe and john@doe.com, and let's say the admitted that date is tomorrow. Let's add another matrix number. Let's say 210 100 600. Don't know why I keep adding 600 at the end of everything. So let's save. It says that Postgres said cannot insert a non-default value into column student ID. I think I'm missing a column that is not meant to be added. Let me discard changes and let me do the current table. Sometimes it faces errors, but let me just try again. And this one, first name John to john@do.com, and today matrix number 210 300 5323. Cannot insert a non-default value into a column. The column student ID is a identity that is generated. Okay. So the issue here that I just face currently, and how I solved it. Let me just walk you through it. When we're creating students table, right? We used a identity of integer, and this is a primary key, and the identity means that it's automatically incremented. So basically, I can't just say that this is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. It's automatically incremented. So this is identity currently is at number 2. If I change this to number 3, it won't work. I also always get the same error. So mean that if it's an identity type of column which are all incremented, it's whether it's a small int or a big int, right? It's the it's Postgres that added that adds the ID rather into the database table. So always make sure of that. You can learn from my mistake during this course. And let's add another column, for example. So some people usually ask this question that why what if I want to start from number 1? So that is quite easy. You just have to truncate the database. So truncate is basically restarting the identity. But sometimes there's always an option if I either want to truncate or not. So I think I didn't really explain what truncate is exactly. Truncate is to not really delete the database table, but remove all the information, all the rules that exist in the database table. So when you try to truncate and you add or you click the button of let me just show you an example so it doesn't feel like I'm just saying things that are not there. So when you click on truncate, like I said earlier, so when you click on restart identity, it also reset the sequences owned by the truncated table. So the identity which is from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If my ID is from 50, if I don't click this, right, and I truncate and I add any data, you start from number 3 because number 2 was the last one I stopped at. So let me just keep that empty. Let's say Farida, last name Solomon. I'm just using random names at this point. Farida at unilag.com. Why did I keep writing Unila? Tomorrow my check number is 210502302 I don't like someone's matric number. When I say you see I start from my 3. When I truncate this database table and then restart the identity, start from number 1. Let's see so you can understand what I'm saying. When I add a new row and I say Josiah and I say world and we say Josiah at Unilag. I feel like I don't write Unilag at this point. And we say yesterday. I was admitted yesterday and I put the matric number. Oh, I almost lost my matric number. That's quite funny. Okay. So you see start identity 1. So that is the difference between truncating using restart identity and not using restart identity. So let's use let me add one more column so you can try using the select command, the insert command, and also the delete command. Okay. Let me add. Always remember, I think I always make that mistake. When I using a database, when I using identity that is automatically incremented, always make sure you leave this empty because Postgres automatically adds the identity number here. So let me put Gordon Smith and we use Gordon at smith.com and we use the default date of let's say today 210922222. Let's try selecting from that database table we created or selecting for database table students with the information we created. So we are going to use select command. Select all from students. There's something I actually noticed now that I have to talk about immediately I'm done with this. So there are actually 2 things I'll have to talk about now. So select all. When I'm using this command, use capital letter or true. So you can always use small letter, doesn't matter. You can use small letter, you can use capital letter. I usually get this question when people are learning database. Like, is it compulsory for me to use capital letter or true when I'm writing my command or I should use small letter? So both actually works, but for me, it's a personal preference. I prefer using capital letter. So when I click on execute, funny that I don't get any results. Okay. Okay, select all from just remove this. Click on students. So I get everything that's there. So student ID. Let's say I want to select a certain column. I don't want to select all. I want to select a certain column. Let me say first name. and last name. So I select first name, last name. So if I want to select matric number alone, and I remove last name, so I can select matric number from my database table. So let's say you have a database that you want to select everything. So you can use select column name and from the database table. So that's the select command, that's a select source. So you can use to retrieve all column from the database table. You can use to retrieve selective or selected column from the database table. So let's try to insert into the database table using the insert command. So I'll try that now. I think we've seen it how to do that with the GUI, but I have to show you how to do that with the commands. Like I said earlier, sometimes when we use GUI a lot, we forget how to use the command. Students. Then let's say inserting so student ID, first name, last name, email, admitted, and matric. Wow, it's quite long. So like I said, the student ID is auto incremented, so we don't have to add that. So we add first name, last name, email, admitted at, first name, last name, email, and admitted at, which is the timestamp. I'm not even sure why we should add that, but anyways, and the value is here. So first name we're adding Ellen. Then the last name we're adding Smith. You see how they are always tied to the column you're adding. So I can't say Smith and expect it to be as email, meaning that it will follow the same order, the same numbering order. So first name is directly equivalent to Ellen. Last name directly equivalent to Smith. So always remember that when you're dealing with we are inserting data into the database table. So the email you're adding Smith at hello. Why do I keep writing chill? Or we are saying admitted that will be timestamp of oh, I think let me just remove the timestamp so it doesn't cause confusion at this point. So when I click on execute statements, I get, let's see if it's inserted. So I get Ellen, I get Smith, and I get this. So I think we missed the matric number. So let me also show you how to use the update command, trying to update Ellen and adding a matric number. So let's try. So for a year we do updates students. I'm not sure whether I need that. Students. Oh, before I do this, let me show you how to do this with a GUI. First of all, then I'll remove it to no one, change it back. 210,754,754. So if I leave your matric number in this video, I'm very, very sorry. So when you refresh, that is added. So I'll also show you how to add it with your GUI. Let me remove it and yeah, get started again. So we use updates command and we use students, and we set the students set column. Let's say we are updating the column matrix. Sorry, it's meant to be in small letter. Wow, I think I skipped again. So matrix is equals to 210 210 210 345 645, where student ID is equals to 3. I think it should be equals to 3 if I'm not making a mistake. Yeah, it should be equals to 3. So we get 1. If you notice, you'll be saying 1, you'll be saying 0 during the when we're using commands. So update man mean that it's true, your normal boolean. So for 0 mean that it didn't update successfully. But when it shows 1 mean that it's updated successfully. Then if I refresh the students, I get the matric number updated successfully without any issue. But if I try with a matric number, a student ID does not exist, I'm meant to get update 0. So let's try to see update 0, because that matric number does not exist. Oh, sorry, that student ID does not exist. So you can't update that record that does not exist. So you get 0. So that's how you use the update command. You can also use to update different things. You can use to update let's say matric number, We can use to update the first name of Ellen. So let's change it to Bello, for example, and we change the student ID to 3, and we click. It says colon Bello does not exist. Set first name is equal to Bello. Sorry, meant to, since it's a varchar, meant to put the double quotes there, or the single quotes. So it's very, very always important for you to check your command when you're typing it. So you get updates one, mean that it's successful. If you click on it here, we get Ellen here is updated to Bello. So that's how we use the update command. Then for you to delete the database row from a database table, so we use delete command. So you delete from database name where condition is, it can be, so let's try it here. Let's say we delete so now I want to delete the database column we added, which is Bello Smith. So if I click on this, I think it's students. So always check your, I think I did a mistake regarding the database table name. So when you execute, you get delete one, mean that's successful. Then we refresh it here, we see Bello doesn't exist anymore. And also, looking at what I said earlier regarding the restart identity, so if I click on a new row here and I create, it's meant to start from number 4. So let's try so you can understand better what I was trying to say earlier. So let's say DG, and DG, let's say DG Bello, and we use DG. I actually wanted to use Deja Vu as the email. Okay. Let's say tomorrow. The magic number is 110 454 212. Click on save here. You see, it stands for my identity number 4. So that's how identity works in database if you are using another incremented ID. So let's continue. I think we've touched on select, we've touched on insert, we've touched on update, and also touched on delete command. So let's move to the next slide, which is using proper naming conventions in a database table. If you notice throughout when I was using my database table, I'm always using underscore. So for you can prefer not to use underscore, you can, instead of using underscore, you can write it normally. So let's try and create a database table with that method. So let's create for me I'm going to use GI, so it will be quite faster instead of using command. Let's create a courses table, and the identity, yeah, it's generated. Yeah, let's say, so I think I will use this GI to touch on different type of setup or different type of schema when I create a database table. So for you, I'll say the course name, which is a text, and let's say it's not null, meaning that it should not be null when you're creating a database row or a row on this database table. You can course name cannot be null, meaning that it should always be there. It cannot be null. And let's say let's try another one. Let's say course title. Sorry, I mean to be course title. Yeah, then the other one is meant to be course code. I think when it comes to courses, it's always a combination of alphanumeric data. So we keep it as a text course code, and also not null. Yeah, it should be not null, and it should be unique. It should be not null. It should be unique. When we see something unique, mean that that course code, it can only be one in that database table. You can't have duplicate of that. You can't have duplicate of that course code in that database table. So that's what unique means. So for example, when you look at a database, most databases today, when in the users table, the email will be unique because that user can only be identified to one email. So you can't have two email on a user table in a database. So it's because it's unique. That's why. I don't know if you've tried it. Probably creating a unique portal, for example. Like two users cannot have the same matrix number, same thing. So the matrix number is unique to that user. So it's quite like similar to the primary key, but not really. So let's add number of students. Number of students. So this one will be a big integer because some students in some classes, A student can be up to 200, 400, 500 depends. So we'll look at the SQL preview. So here we are creating a database table under schema public and courses table. So with an identity that is generated always as an identity, mean that is auto-incremented. So a course title with text data type that is not null, mean that when you're creating this or when you're inserting a row into the database table, course title must always be there. We'll also look at course code, which is also database type text, and it should not be null. Number of students can be null because there's sometimes that the course will not have any number of students registered to it. So it's also a big integer. So for here, we identify that ID is a primary key and course code is unique. So when you click on save changes, right, we get courses. Let's try and see. Oh wow. Actually, why the reason why I want to the reason why I did this was to show that was to show like any different naming convention. I think I skipped it when I was doing it, which is crazy. But let's try and edit. Let's try and alter the database table. So instead of using underscore here, I'll just write it normally. You get a lot of alter commands when you look at the SQL preview. So you say alter table, alter schema public, and courses. We get to name column course title so course title without the underscore. Same thing with course code without the underscore. Same thing with number of students without the underscore. So when save changes, when we refresh, and we check our contents, we get ID, course title, we get course code, and we get number of students. So we add this and let's see. And let's say, for example, we are looking at sequential programming, and we say CSA 213, and we add number of students, let's say 121. So when save changes, we get added. So I'll show you the reason why when you have a unique identity to a database column, you can't have the same identity. I mean that this can be only allowed once into the database table. So I'll show you and see the error that it shows. Let's add another course. Let's say introduction to Python. Or let's say introduction to Postgres, because this course are about Postgres. Let's say CSC 213. So you see what I'm saying. Our number of students, let's say 76. I save changes, we get an error. So that cannot save duplicate key value. If value is violate the unique constraint, if violates the unique constraint, sorry, it violates the unique constraints regarding the database table. So that is why course code CSC 213 already exists. You can't add it anymore. So that's why the unique identity is very important when you're dealing with database table that or database column that are uniquely identified. So when we click on OK and we change it to something else, let's say CSC 314. See that it says properly now. Yeah. So always use proper naming convention. Also be cautious with your job command. So when you use job command, you always delete the database. You should delete the database table. So always back up a database. I think I showed the slide earlier that it's always very important for you to back up a database. So before you use your drop command, before you use your update command, because you can be dealing with data that are very important regarding database integrity. So it's always important for you to back up those databases before you make those changes because they can cause havoc in your database system or in your projects. So we have an assignment that I added to this course so it can be easier for you to understand it better. So for on your own, you can download and set up your Postgres on your system with pgadmin. So you have any issues regarding it, you can always send me a message. And you can also use any database agent of your choice. Either you're using Postico, which is most preferably used for Postgres, or you're using Table Plus. So whatever which one you use doesn't really matter. And also, yeah, we talked about yeah, you have to create a database with the name GDSC DB and create a database table of students with column student ID name email and insert data. So yeah, you can try using the unique constraint I showed you. So you can also draw database table using the drop table command. So that's it for this course for today. So I think I should do like a preview before I end the class. So in today's class, talk about it for introduction to PostgreSQL. Talk about what database are, how the importance in building backend infrastructure, building backend system. Because I used to store a collection of data that is being used for databases or by is being used by users. So also talk about that they can be stored in a server on your computer system, your local machine, doesn't matter. You see, we saw how we install database into a local machine and we perform the different database operation on database table. So basically, database are basically used to store, retrieve, and mine data. Your normal code operation, traditional code operation, the create, read, update, and delete operation. So we also mentioned about what relational databases are and what NoSQL databases are, which are the ones that have more flexibility. Talk about the examples of a database that are relational, like the PostgreSQL, the MySQL. And also talk about key concepts of databases, tables, schema, codes, and transaction. I think I explained transaction a little bit better. Think if you have any issues understanding transaction, you can always send me a message. And talk about why you should use Postgres, how it handle more complex queries and large data sets, whether you have a million record, 10 million record, doesn't matter. Also used to handle concurrent transaction at the same time. I also showed you how to get, not basically show you, but I showed you how to install database, which is Postgres on your system. Then you get the installation wizard. If you have any issues installing this, so you can also let me know. And which is very important that you should not forget. Always remember the password is for your default database user, which is Postgres. So you can install pgadmin, which I recommend, highly recommend. And also install the database agent, either table plus or PostgreSQL, anyone you prefer. Let's talk about creating a mining database table. How to create a database in your GUI using your command. How to create a table to use your GUI using a command. So whichever one you prefer, whichever one is easier. But for me, I always prefer using my GUI. It's quite easy, quite fast. So I'm dealing with large queries, I have to use database SQL commands. So what's to talk about dropping a database? So always remember, don't drop a database that you're meant to drop, so that you're not sacking your job. So yeah, basic SQL commands. Select, insert, update, delete, or basic code operation. To talk about how to select or retrieve information from a database using a database column. So it can be joint column instead of selecting all, you can select specific column. Also, insert data into the database table. We talk about the insert command, the update command also, and also the delete command. Then we talk about using proper naming convention. You can use camel cases, you can use cases with underscore. Your preference, but for me, I prefer using underscore. Also, again, I mentioned it, always be cautious before you drop a database and also back it up. So thank you for today's class, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much.